The human engineer wiped his sweaty palms on a clean cloth and looked up at the towering figure before him. The alien warrior's armor was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its chest plate shimmered with strange metallic patterns that shifted subtly, almost like liquid, reacting to light and pressure. Every line, every joint, every seam seemed to be both beautiful and dangerous. He had been called to repair it after a recent skirmish in orbit, and the responsibility weighed heavily on him. One wrong move could either disable the armor or injure the wearer. He glanced at the alien standing silently, her gaze fixed on him. Her eyes were large and glowed faintly with an inner light, giving her a presence that felt both commanding and alert. She moved with the grace of a predator and the patience of a scholar, waiting without a word. The human could feel her presence in the room as if it filled every corner, pressing down like the weight of expectation. "Just breathe," he whispered to himself, though his voice seemed small in the vast metallic bay. He knelt in front of the chest plate, inspecting the damage. A jagged dent marred the upper right section, and some of the energy conduits inside had fractured. The challenge was not just physical. The armor was alive in its own way, a combination of advanced human-like engineering and alien technology that required careful understanding. He began his work slowly, connecting delicate instruments to the armor systems, watching the readings flicker on a small display panel. The alien warrior shifted slightly, making no sound, but the movement reminded him that she was aware of every motion he made. His fingers trembled as he inserted a microfusion stabilizer into the core of the armor, aligning it carefully with the fractured conduits. "Careful," he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. The alien's gaze did not waver. He could feel her studying him, judging his skill, his focus, his patience. Every engineer who had worked with this species before had warned him. The warriors were proud and often harsh in their judgment, yet precise in expectation. One mistake could end a career, or worse. Hours passed. He carefully fused the fractured conduits, adjusted the energy stabilizers, and recalibrated the armor's internal sensors. Every time a spark flickered or a conduit hummed incorrectly, his heart jumped. He could feel the tension building, the air thick with quiet anticipation. Finally, he stepped back slightly, examining his work. The armor hummed softly, the fractures mended, the energy flows smooth and stable. The alien warrior moved closer, her movements deliberate. Each step measured. He noticed the faint scent of her, strange but not unpleasant, a mixture of the station's recycled air and something uniquely alien, sharp yet calming. Then she leaned in slightly, close enough that he could feel the subtle shift of air around her. Her eyes studied him, wide and luminous, and she murmured words he almost did not expect.
"Go ahead, human." He froze. The statement sent a jolt of confusion through him.
"Go ahead?" He looked at her, then at the armor. Was she asking him to adjust something further? Was this a test of skill, or a challenge to see his courage? His mind raced, trying to interpret the meaning behind her calm, unwavering tone. He glanced at the armor, then back at her. The dent was repaired, the energy stabilized. Everything he knew told him the work was done, yet something in her posture suggested she trusted him with more than just the machinery. It was subtle, a tilt of her head, the way her shoulders relaxed just slightly, but it spoke volumes in a language beyond words. The human engineer took a deep breath, steadying himself. He realized that this moment was not about the armor. It was about trust. The alien warrior had chosen to trust him, to allow him access not just to her equipment, but to her confidence. He had worked with humans before who feared making mistakes. He had worked with machines that could not communicate, but he had never experienced this combination. Human skill, alien technology, and an unspoken bond forming in the quiet of a station bay. He carefully reached forward, his hands steady now, guided by both logic and a new understanding of responsibility. Every movement was deliberate, precise, as if he were dancing to a rhythm he could not hear but somehow knew. The alien warrior remained still, watching. patient, letting him take the lead. Minutes stretched into hours. The engineer adjusted internal circuits, realigned energy nodes, and ensured that every panel was perfectly seated. The armor responded to his touch, the hums and pulses synchronizing with his movements. It was as if it recognized his care, its alien systems acknowledging the precision and respect he offered. Finally, he leaned back slightly, wiping sweat from his brow. He looked at her, and she inclined her head in a subtle gesture of acknowledgement. He could feel a weight lift, not from the repair being complete, but from a silent agreement forming between them. Respect, skill, and trust had been exchanged, bridging the vast differences of species and culture. "Done," he said softly, almost reverently. The alien warrior did not speak immediately. She moved with measured grace, testing the repaired sections with a few subtle movements. The armor responded flawlessly. She turned her eyes toward him again, and for the first time, a faint hint of what could be amusement or approval flickered across her features. The human engineer let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. It was over. The work was complete. And yet, the moment lingered, heavy with possibilities he could not yet understand. In that quiet bay, among the humming machines and polished metal floors, a bond had been formed. It was not friendship, at least not yet. It was not romance. It was something rarer. Trust between species, an acknowledgement that skill and courage could bridge gaps that no technology or protocol could. And for the first time in hours, the human felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel in the presence of such alien authority. Confidence. Confidence in his hands, in his mind, and unexpectedly, in the choices of another being entirely different from him. He began to pack his tools, careful not to disturb the hum of the fully repaired armor. The alien warrior watched him, still silent, still commanding, but no longer intimidating in the same way. She had allowed him into her world, and he had not faltered. As he stood and stepped back, she inclined her head again, almost imperceptibly, a gesture of approval, of recognition, of something unspoken but deeply understood. The engineer realized then that his day would be remembered, not for the repair itself, but for the trust placed in him, and for the courage he had found within himself to rise to the challenge. And in the quiet of the engineering bay, that trust whispered louder than any words. "Go ahead, human." He knew then that this was only the beginning. The human engineer lingered in the bay longer than usual, wiping his hands on a cloth and watching the alien warrior as she moved with quiet precision. The armor was fully functional now, the fractures gone, the energy conduits humming smoothly, but he could not leave. Not yet. There was a subtle tension in the air, something unspoken but compelling, pulling him to remain near her presence. She shifted slightly, as if aware of his hesitation, but made no comment. Her eyes, still luminous, followed his movements carefully. It was not expectation this time. It was observation, curiosity, and, unexpectedly, patience. The engineer realized that he had crossed an invisible threshold. She trusted him enough to let him stay, to continue learning and working at her side. He took a step closer, gesturing toward the inner mechanisms of the armor, where some minor adjustments could still improve efficiency.
"I can fine-tune these conduits," he said softly.
It might make the armor respond faster during combat. The alien warrior tilted her head, considering his words. Then she nodded once, a slow, deliberate motion. "Go ahead," she said again, her voice calm but carrying weight. It was a simple phrase, yet it felt different this time. Less about testing him, more about allowing him to contribute to her strength. The engineer approached the armor carefully, his hand steady despite the quickening of his heartbeat. He traced the energy conduits, adjusting flow regulators, checking calibration points, and fine-tuning the alignment. Each movement required precision. Each decision carried consequence. One wrong adjustment could destabilize the entire system. He worked in silence, focused entirely on the task, while the alien warrior remained still, watching him. Her posture relaxed slightly as he moved, a subtle acknowledgement of the trust she was extending. The engineer felt a mix of pride and responsibility. Humans were often underestimated in this galaxy, and yet here he was, allowed to touch, to improve, and to care for technology that belonged to a species vastly more advanced and physically superior than himself. Hours passed, though the engineer did not notice. His mind was consumed with the delicate dance of energy flows, mechanical alignments, and alien technology. Every adjustment he made seemed to synchronize perfectly with the warrior's own movements, as if the armor itself recognized his care. Finally, he paused and stepped back, observing the armor as a whole. The adjustments were complete. The conduits flowed smoothly, the armor responded immediately to pressure points, and every system was optimized for peak performance. He dared a glance at the warrior, and she inclined her head slightly, her eyes reflecting a faint glimmer of satisfaction. "You understand my technology better than I expected," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. It was the first time she had complimented him directly. The engineer blinked, surprised. I just follow what I know," he replied, unsure how to respond. Humans were not accustomed to direct praise from alien warriors, especially not from one so formidable. She studied him for a moment longer, then spoke again. "Skill and care are rare. You possess both. That is why I allow you here." The human felt a warmth rise within him. Not fear, not pride, but a quiet confidence. Trust had been given, and he had not faltered. The realization strengthened him. Not in arrogance, but in purpose. He understood in that moment that this was not merely about repairing armor. It was about proving that humans, though small and fragile compared to many alien species, could rise to challenges that required intellect, courage, and heart. As he continued to inspect the armor, a soft alarm sounded from the station's central systems. A minor technical anomaly in one of the outer decks had triggered a warning. The engineer glanced at the readouts, noting a small energy fluctuation. He pointed it out to the warrior. "It's nothing serious," he said, "but the energy readings are off in the outer section. It might affect your mission readiness if left unchecked." The warrior's eyes narrowed slightly, a mixture of interest and determination. "Then we shall address it," she said. Her voice carried authority, but there was no anger, only focus. "Lead the way." The engineer followed her through the metallic corridors of the station. The hallways were long and sterile, lit by panels that hummed with life. Alien symbols glowed faintly along the walls, and the occasional human technician moved about, busy with repairs and maintenance. Yet even among the bustling activity, the warrior moved with quiet confidence, every step precise and measured. When they reached the outer deck, the engineer immediately saw the source of the anomaly. A minor energy conduit had been damaged, its stabilization field flickering. The station's automated systems had detected the fluctuation and issued a precautionary alert. The engineer knelt beside the conduit, his hands moving deftly as he inspected the damage. The alien warrior stood nearby, her eyes scanning the surrounding area, alert to any possible threat. Though she was capable of defending herself, and the engineer as well, he felt an odd reassurance in her presence. He was human, fragile, but here, at her side, his skills mattered. He worked carefully, reconnecting the conduits, realigning the stabilization field, and ensuring that the energy flows were restored. The process was meticulous, and the warrior observed every movement, silent but attentive. After some time, the conduit stabilized, and the readings returned to normal. The engineer stood and wiped his hands again, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The warrior nodded approvingly, a faint smile appearing at the corner of her mouth. "Your skills extend beyond the armor," she said. "You are capable in unexpected ways." "Humans often surprise me." He could not help but smile, despite the lingering tension. Humans had always been underestimated, and here in the presence of an alien warrior whose strength and intellect were legendary, he felt seen for the first time. Not as weak, not as insignificant, but as someone capable of contributing, of making a difference. The warrior turned her attention back to him, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the station lights. "You may stay here," she said. "There is more to learn, and I wish to see how you approach it. If you can handle the armor, you may handle much more." The engineer felt a shiver of excitement mixed with responsibility. This was more than an opportunity. It was a test, a chance to demonstrate that humans could rise to challenges far beyond what others expected. He nodded, determined to prove himself worthy of the trust placed in him. They returned to the armor bay, and the warrior allowed him to continue examining the systems. As he worked, he noticed small details, the way the armor responded to slight pressure, the subtle shifts in energy fields, the intricate design that balanced offense and defense seamlessly. Each observation deepened his understanding, not only of the technology, but of the alien mind that had created it. Hours passed as he adjusted, calibrated, and refined. The warrior remained close, silent but present, her gaze never leaving his hands. It was a strange companionship, one of mutual respect and shared purpose, yet without words beyond necessity. Still, the human felt a connection forming, built on trust, skill, and the shared goal of mastery over technology that few humans could ever comprehend. Finally, he stepped back and looked at the fully operational armor. The energy fields pulsed in harmony, the conduits flowed smoothly, and the mechanisms responded instantly to touch. The warrior tested a few movements, and the armor reacted perfectly. She turned to him, her expression unreadable for a moment, then softened slightly. "You have done well," she said. "Not all humans could achieve this. You understand balance, precision, and the subtlety of force. That is why you remain here." The engineer felt a deep sense of pride, but also humility. This was more than praise. It was acknowledgement from a being far beyond human in strength and intellect. He realized that the bond forming here was rare, a bridging of two species through skill, trust, and mutual respect. In the quiet of the bay, he knew that this was only the beginning. The warrior's trust had opened a door to possibilities he had never imagined. And for the first time, he understood that being human was not a weakness. It was a strength, and combined with courage, skill, and dedication. The human engineer continued his work, steady and focused, aware that each adjustment, each calibration, was a step toward greater understanding. The alien warrior observed him, her presence a constant reminder that trust, once given, carried immense power. And in that trust, he found purpose, confidence, and a newfound respect for the extraordinary life he was part of in this vast, alien universe. The station's outer corridors hummed with quiet energy, the lights casting long reflections on the metallic floors. The human engineer followed the alien warrior as she moved with calm precision, her every step measured and purposeful. He had never seen anyone command presence like hers, not in the military, not in the engineering bays, not even among the most elite humans. She exuded authority, yet there was no arrogance, only confidence born from experience and mastery. Their destination was a secondary engineering deck, one less traveled by humans and often reserved for specialized alien projects. As they walked, the engineer felt a strange sense of comfort in her presence. Despite her imposing stature and alien appearance, the earlier repairs to her chest armor had earned him trust, and now that trust allowed him a rare glimpse into her world, one that few humans ever accessed. When they arrived, he immediately noticed the problem. A containment field around one of the station's power conduits was unstable. Small energy pulses leaked intermittently, causing flickers in the lights and slight vibrations in the metal floor. The station's automated monitoring systems had not yet triggered an alert, but the warrior's keen senses had detected it instantly. He knelt beside the conduit, examining the readings. The human mind approached problems differently from the alien. While she seemed to feel the instability instinctively, he relied on logic, observation, and methodical testing. They complemented each other perfectly. He adjusted a micro-stabilizer, testing its effect, while she observed, her glowing eyes tracking the energy pulses like a predator analyzing prey. "You understand the flow better than I anticipated," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority. "Humans are often predictable, yet your methods are adaptable." He felt a flush of pride. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, and she had just acknowledged not only his skill but his capacity to think beyond expectation. "I just follow the patterns I see," he replied, focusing on the conduit. The energy pulses shifted slightly, reacting to his adjustments. The alien warrior stepped closer, her movements silent and fluid, watching each of his actions. "Do not hesitate," she said. "The outcome depends on precision, not speed. You have the skill. Now trust it." Her words resonated with him. He realized that every challenge, every repair, was a test not just of his hands but of his judgment. The human engineer worked methodically, adjusting conduits, realigning energy nodes, and recalibrating the stabilization field. His fingers moved with increasing confidence, guided by both training and the subtle encouragement of her presence. Hours passed in a quiet rhythm. Every adjustment brought the conduit closer to stability. Every flicker of energy, every hum, reinforced the importance of care and precision. He was aware that this was no ordinary repair. It was a chance to prove that humans could solve problems in ways the alien warrior did not anticipate. Finally, the pulses stabilized. The lights on the deck returned to steady illumination, and the vibrations ceased. He stepped back, observing the results of his work. The warrior inclined her head slightly, a rare gesture of approval from one who commanded respect effortlessly.
"Good," she said simply.
"You adapt. That is why you are here." He nodded, a mixture of relief and pride washing over him. This was more than a repair. It was validation, a recognition that humans, though physically weaker and technologically less advanced in some areas, possessed ingenuity and courage that could match even the most skilled alien warriors. Just as he began to pack his tools, an alert sounded from the central station systems. A small fleet of unidentified ships had entered the outer perimeter. Their movements were careful, calculated, but potentially hostile. The human engineer felt a spike of adrenaline. He was not trained for combat, yet here he was, standing beside a warrior who could handle threats far greater than he could imagine. The alien warrior's eyes narrowed as she assessed the incoming ships. "Prepare the station," she said, her voice firm but calm. "We do not yet know their intent, but we must be ready for any possibility." The engineer followed her lead, assisting in recalibrating defensive shields and reinforcing power nodes that could be critical if the ships attacked. His skills were no longer limited to repairs. He was part of a system, a team that relied on precise timing and understanding of complex technology. Together they moved through the station, each step coordinated, each action deliberate. The alien warrior gave silent commands, her body language communicating strategy and priority faster than any words could. The human engineer responded, applying his understanding of systems to ensure that every shield, every conduit, and every defensive mechanism was optimized. During a brief pause, the warrior turned to him. "You are learning quickly," she observed. "Do not let fear guide your hands. Confidence and clarity are stronger than hesitation." He nodded, taking a deep breath. Fear was natural, but he had learned something essential. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. He adjusted another stabilizer, ensuring that the energy conduits feeding the station's shields were perfectly aligned. The moment was tense. The unknown ships remained outside, their intentions unclear. The human engineer felt the weight of responsibility, yet he also felt something rare, the trust of a being far stronger and wiser than himself. She had allowed him into her world, given him the chance to contribute in a meaningful way, and he would not fail. Hours seemed to stretch, the tension unbroken, until finally the systems responded as they should. Shield-stabilized energy conduits hummed steadily, and the station's monitoring systems reported optimal function. The human engineer stepped back, exhausted but exhilarated. His hands steady now, his mind sharp and clear. The alien warrior inclined her head once more, her expression almost unreadable. Then, for the first time, a faint smile touched her lips.
"Well done, human," she said. "You have proven your worth beyond expectations."
Few could achieve this under pressure.
All about it, she allowed himself a small smile in return. Humans were often underestimated. Yet here he was, standing beside a warrior who acknowledged his skill, courage, and adaptability.
He realized that this was the essence of being human in a galaxy full of advanced species, the ability to think, to act, and to rise above limitations when it mattered most. The warrior moved closer to the repaired armor, testing its movements again. She shifted, bent slightly, rotated, and the armor responded flawlessly. She turned her gaze to him, and for a long moment the two regarded each other. No words were necessary. Mutual respect had been earned, trust had been established, and a partnership, unspoken but undeniable, had formed. "You have done well today," she said softly.
"Do not underestimate yourself. Humans possess strength beyond what is visible."
"Courage, ingenuity, and persistence are your weapons." The human engineer felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was no longer merely a repair or a test. It was a lesson in trust, collaboration, and the potential that humans carried within them. He understood now that his presence here mattered, that his actions could influence outcomes, and that being human was not a weakness, but a unique advantage in unexpected ways. As the warrior prepared to move on to other tasks, she turned her head slightly. "We will continue tomorrow," she said. "There is much more to learn, and your skills will be tested further." He nodded, feeling anticipation and determination. The challenges ahead were unknown, yet he was ready. With trust established and respect earned, the human engineer knew that he could face what came next with courage, skill, and the quiet confidence of one who had proven himself worthy. Together they left the deck, moving through the station's corridors with silent coordination, each aware of the other's abilities and the unspoken bond forming between them. Outside, the unknown ships remained, their intentions unclear, but the human engineer was no longer afraid. He was part of something greater now, a partnership that transcended species, united by trust, skill, and the shared goal of mastery and survival in the vast, unpredictable galaxy. Hours later, as he returned to the engineering bay to organize his tools, he paused and looked at the alien warrior's armor once more. Every detail reflected precision, resilience, and strength, but also trust. It was not just technology. It was a symbol of connection, a bridge between two beings from different worlds, joined by mutual respect and the shared understanding that skill and courage could overcome even the most daunting challenges. The human engineer smiled faintly to himself, feeling a quiet pride. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new challenges, and perhaps new surprises. But for now, he had proven something essential. Humans could rise to greatness, even in the presence of beings far more advanced, far stronger, and far wiser. And in that realization, he found purpose, confidence, and the unshakable knowledge that being human was a power of its own, a power he would wield carefully, wisely, and courageously alongside the alien warrior who had dared to trust him. The alert lights flashed across the station, bathing the corridors in red and orange hues. The human engineer felt the hum of energy beneath his feet as he followed the alien warrior through the central hub. The unknown ships had moved closer, their formations precise, but their intent remained unclear. Every second counted, and the station's defenses would need perfect coordination to hold. The alien warrior moved with calm authority, her eyes scanning the sensors and displays faster than any human could comprehend. She gestured to critical control panels and shielding nodes, issuing silent commands with subtle movements the human engineer understood immediately. He was part of the system now, not just an observer or repairman. His skills mattered. His decisions mattered. "Keep the shields stable," she said, her voice clear and commanding. "Adjust the conduits as necessary. Every pulse counts." He approached the main power panel, hands steady despite the rising tension. He began monitoring the energy flows, noticing minor fluctuations in the outer grids. The human mind worked differently from hers. She could instinctively feel imbalances, while he analyzed patterns, calculated responses, and implemented precise corrections. Together they formed a perfect team, instinct and logic combined. As he worked, the warrior moved to a tactical station, her hands flying across the controls, diverting power, activating defensive arrays, and recalibrating energy fields. The unknown ships fired a warning volley, not yet attacking directly, but their intent was clear. They were testing defenses, probing weaknesses. "Incoming energy spike!" the engineer shouted. He adjusted a micro-stabilizer, redirecting power to the outer shields. The panels hummed, the lights on the displays steadied, and the station's automated systems began compensating for the fluctuation. The warrior glanced at him, eyes glowing faintly with acknowledgement. "Well done," she said. "Precision under pressure is valuable. Never underestimate your contribution." The human felt a rush of confidence. The Broad. Hours ago he had been repairing armor, uncertain and nervous. Now he was defending a station against unknown forces, coordinating with a being far stronger, faster, and wiser than himself. And yet, he was making a difference. Humans underestimated across the galaxy could rise to challenges that demanded courage, intelligence, and calm under pressure. The unknown ships increased their speed, closing the distance. The station's shields flickered under the strain, and the alien warrior's movements became more urgent. "Divert additional power to the primary shields," she commanded. The engineer quickly analyzed the conduits. One section was overheating, threatening to shut down. He redirected energy through auxiliary channels, balancing the load, preventing a cascade failure. Sparks flew from the panels as he worked, but his hands were steady, guided by experience and focus. One ship broke formation, moving directly towards the station. The warrior noticed instantly, drawing her sidearm, a sleek alien weapon designed to handle threats with precision. The human could only watch as she moved, her body a blur, firing targeted energy blasts that disabled the ship's propulsion. The small vessel spun out of control and drifted harmlessly into space. The other ships hesitated. Their formation wavered, sensing the coordinated defense of the station. The warrior returned to her tactical station, issuing commands to reinforce the shields, redirecting power where necessary, while the engineer ensured that every energy conduit responded perfectly. Minutes felt like hours. The station held, its systems stable under the combined efforts of human ingenuity and alien mastery. The unknown ships slowly retreated, perhaps deterred by the station's defenses, perhaps reconsidering their attack strategy. Either way, the immediate threat was gone. The warrior turned to the engineer, her expression unreadable at first, then softening. "You have proven yourself," she said. "Humans are underestimated for a reason. They are often smaller, slower, and less advanced. Yet they possess something no technology can replicate: adaptability, courage, and determination." He nodded, exhausted but elated. "I just did what I could," he said humbly. "No," she replied firmly. "You did more than that. You acted under pressure, with precision and with courage. That is rare among your kind. Today you are more than a repairman. You are a protector, a strategist, and a partner. The human engineer felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had always believed humans were limited, fragile, and often overlooked. Yet here, in the presence of an alien warrior whose strength and intellect surpassed almost everyone else, he had contributed meaningfully. He had made a difference. Humans could rise to challenges, even in a universe dominated by far stronger beings. As the station returned to normal operation, alarms silenced and lights stabilized, the warrior moved closer, inspecting her armor once more. The repairs were intact, the energy flows balanced, and the armor responded flawlessly to movement. She tested it with a few combat maneuvers, and it reacted instantly. "You have restored more than my armor," she said. "You have restored confidence. I can face battles knowing humans like you exist. You remind me that skill and courage are not defined by size, strength, or appearance." The engineer smiled faintly. "Thank you," he said. I didn't expect any of this when I came here." She inclined her head slightly, a rare gesture of approval and respect. Expectations are often limited. You exceeded them. Remember that, human? Courage and ingenuity can overcome far more than brute strength. They stood in silence for a moment, the hum of the station filling the space around them. Outside, the stars glimmered, distant and indifferent, but within the station a quiet bond had formed. Trust, respect, and collaboration had bridged the gap between two very different beings, creating a partnership that neither had anticipated, but both now relied upon. The human engineer packed his tools, feeling a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. He had repaired armor, stabilized conduits, and defended a station under threat, all while working beside an alien warrior who had shown him that humans were capable of far more than he had imagined.
"You may rest now," she said, finally allowing him a moment of relief. "Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and I will need your skills again."
"But, for tonight, reflect on what you have achieved. You are stronger than you believe." He nodded, feeling exhaustion and pride mix into a quiet satisfaction. Humans often overlooked their own potential, yet here he had experienced it firsthand. Courage, ingenuity, and persistence had carried him through. As he left the engineering bay, the warrior turned back to the station's controls, her presence a constant reminder that the universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and challenges, but also full of possibilities. Humans, small and underestimated, could rise to greatness when given the chance and the trust of those who recognized their potential. The human engineer walked through the station's corridors, a new sense of confidence in his step. He had learned something essential. Being human was not a limitation, it was a strength, one that could make a difference in ways that technology or brute force alone never could. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and the unknown ships had retreated, leaving the station safe for now. But the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges yet to come. He welcomed them, knowing that skill, courage, and trust would guide him through any obstacle. And in that quiet understanding, he knew that this was only the beginning. He had proven what humans could achieve when courage met opportunity, when skill met trust, and when determination met challenge. The galaxy was vast, and humans were small. But even the smallest could leave a mark on the stars. The warrior's gaze lingered on him, one last time, before she turned back to the station controls. There was respect there, acknowledgement, and perhaps a hint of something deeper, something unspoken but undeniable. They had faced danger together, and through that shared experience a bridge had been built between two very different beings. The human engineer took a deep breath, looking out at the vast expanse beyond the station. He felt a quiet pride, a sense of purpose, and a deep understanding of what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of wonders and dangers. Skill, courage, trust. These were the weapons that mattered most. And for the first time, he knew without doubt that being human could make a difference, no matter how vast or intimidating the universe might be.